is going on, everybody? College basketball, NCAA tournament, DFS, so pumped. One of the best times of the year. You've got brackets. Hopefully, most of those have been made for you all. Really went over that in depth last night. Today, we're going to go through the 16-game DFS slate. So I'm not going to waste much time. I'm going to hop right in. One thing that I do want to talk about first, if you've not joined us over at patreon.com/Jagerbombs, be sure to do so. I dropped that link in the chat. Also dropped a link. Let me see if I can. So the other link, the bit.ly link, is a free link to our Discord for a free trial. So be sure to hop in there. You will get access through, I think, the rest of the night for college basketball, and then we're going behind the paywall. So go ahead and hop in there. Let me know if you all have any questions while I'm going through here. I'm going to touch on, a little bit of game by game, a little bit of slate overview. I think that's just the best way to attack it. It's the way that I go through slates is game by game, no matter how big they are, and kind of get an overall feel for each one. First thing I want to do, I want to go through this was a lineup from a couple years ago, and this is what I really want to point out is how in these first round games of the tournament, you have a lot of mid-major players that are not very well known, but they have big rates. And yes, they're playing teams like a Kansas or some of these number one seeds that they're going to get blown out. But we don't really care about that, on that side of the game because they're still going to play their guys. Whereas on the other side, if you're looking at a team like Kansas or one of those number one seeds, Houston, if they get up big, they're going to set all their guys. So that's something that you can look at here. This was from Thursday of the tournament 2 years ago. Max Asmus, Carter for Hartford, Potter, I think that's Morehead State. You had Jalen Smith for Arkansas, who went off. O'Banner for Oral Roberts with Asmus. You're just noticing a theme of these low major schools. Mutz didn't have a very good game in this one, but Liberty and then Joni Broom from when he was with Morehead State. Again, they lost by 17. He put up 30 DK and was in the winner here. You look at the same thing with his teammate Potter, put up 30. They lost by 17. Hartford lost to Baylor, who was a 1 seed that year, by 24, but Carter got to 30. So don't be afraid to play these mid-major guys. I mean, they have big rates. Somebody's going to score for these teams, and a lot of times it's a lot of underpricing with them. Unfortunately, when we get to Oral Roberts again, they did not underprice pretty much anybody on that team, unfortunately. So we will hop right in. Really going to go, again, through game by game, and if you have any questions, stop me. I'm going to share our screen with the NCAA Tournament Thursday DFS sheet. Got projections in there. We'll talk through them. Again, going to go team by team kind of quickly. So be sure to stop me, like I said, if you have any questions. I'm going to make sure you all can see this fine. Yeah, it looks good enough. So I'm going to sort by team. We're going to start on the matchups tab. First game of the day, Maryland, West Virginia, 2-point spread, 137.5 total. Just a quick overview of some of these, paces of these games. The biggest total on the slate, and this was as of probably 30 minutes ago when I updated the odds. Bama and Texas A&M Corpus Christi is a 155.5 total with Bama, almost a 90-point implied total. I think of course they're gonna get theirs. They're gonna probably win this by 20 or so and move right on. Other big totals: Missouri and Utah State. That's going to be a popular one. Both teams, pushing the 80 implied points with a 1.5 spread. So we'll touch on that, but I really like that spot from a pace perspective. Arizona and Princeton, 154 total, 14.5-point favorite for Arizona. These are the kind of spots that I think you can look at teams like Princeton, teams like even Howard, possibly Texas A&M Corpus Christi, even though they were kind of dreadful, at least in the first half the other night in their first tournament game. But some of the other games, you got lower totals in Houston. Those are the ones that I kind of want to stay away from. I never like to target Houston, their opponent in general. And now they're 19-point favorites. Northern Kentucky, only 51 implied points in this game, lowest on the slate. So probably want to stay away from ones like that. Some sneaky, shootout games. Arkansas, Illinois, I think could go back and forth really well at a 144 total. That may come in a little under the radar as far as a game stack. Duke and Oral Roberts, same thing. We'll get to that one. I think that's one of the more interesting ones. Before I opened up pricing and again started going game by game through these, I was really hoping that the Oral Roberts side that I would be able to play more that I'm going to. But it's actually DFS-wise kind of flipped the other way. I like the Duke guys quite a bit more. Duke in general, I think they get pushed here. I think Oral Roberts could even steal one by a guy like Max Asmus. But from a DFS perspective, I think we have to like these Duke guys more than the Oral Roberts side. So let's hop right in. Maryland and West Virginia is game number one. I'm going to go down here to Maryland. And again, this is an all-day slate. There could be, some news that we're on the lookout for. Not necessarily here. Let me pull up one thing while we're sorry. Everything needs a code these days. Okay. So while that's loading, Maryland comes in here as a 2-point dog. A lot of these guys rate out decently. Jameer Young coming out at a little over 4x, 7,900. I think he's fine for GPPs. Again, definitely not going to be one that I kind of jump right in on and build around by any means. But if I fall, on him as the last spot, and probably even at that point still need to be multi-entering to get there. But I think that he is in play. This is not one of my overall more favorite games here on the slate. Don't really see a ton of fantasy goodness. Don Carey, though, 4,200, rates out a little over 4x for me. And I think he's played decently down the stretch here. And I think, value is kind of scarce on the slate for the most part. And 4,200 for him, I think he's squarely in play. Moving over to the West Virginia side, a lot of these guys are decent, plays per projections, but I really just can't get behind any of the front court going up against Maryland. It's not the easiest matchup. Kadarian Johnson has looked really good over the last month or so. 6,600 is definitely a fair price to him, but again, not somebody that I want to build around. So most of the plays in this game are ones that if I fall on them at the end, sure, go for it. But other than that, I really don't want to touch much of this game. Moving on to Virginia and Furman. Virginia is now a 6-point favorite and a 132 total. They love to slow the pace down. Furman is a very good offense. This is one of my upset picks in my main bracket personally. I think Furman can definitely push them here and pull off the 13-4 upset. If they get hot, I think, UVA is going to have a tough time, scoring-wise. They lost Ben Vanderplas for the year, which is a fairly big loss for this team. So I kind of like the spread there, as well as possibly a sprinkle on the money line. But unfortunately, here in Virginia, I cannot bet on Virginia college teams. So I won't be personally putting my money behind that one. But um, from a DFS perspective, Virginia, Beekman, Gardner, and Franklin are all GPP only plays. Again, very similar to the last game. Only ones that I'll probably, if I land on, sure, or if I, um, you know, just fall in these ranges. It's not even one of those that you would swap too late because it's one of the earlier games. But all those guys are fine. Without Vanderplas, Gardner has looked even better here. So he would probably be the preferred option for me. Beekman then, and then Franklin, who can get hot from behind the arc, and he's 5,900, which is this guy was a 7K player early in the year when he was really firing. But again, not building around Virginia. And then on the Furman side, there's really only one play that I'm interested in. And I'm probably going to butcher a lot of these mid-major names, just so you guys know before we get there. But JP Pegs, 5,400. He rates out over 5X for me. Obviously, that's not factoring in fully the matchup against Virginia here. So 5,400 is very fair, though. I think he can get there. Slauson and Bothwell in a better matchup, I would be all over them. They're the main guys for this team. But here, going up against Virginia, I kind of want to go with the cheaper route. You could also pivot, off of him and go to Marcus Foster, who's 5,100. Really, though, it's only Pegs for me at 5,400, and he is definitely in consideration for a main team type play there at 5,400. Moving on, Missouri, Utah State. This is the biggest total, closest spread. Probably going to get a lot of hype because of that. But there's some very good plays here. I'll start on the Missouri side. Kobe Brown has massive upside as long as he can kind of stay away from foul trouble. You're looking at a 24% usage rate, which has came down a little bit over his last 5, but still, I think he has big upside in this matchup. Demoy Hodge is what has taken a little bit of that usage away. He has went from 22 to 24 season versus last 5. His price is now up close to Kobe Brown, so I view him as really only a pivot. Noah Carter, 5,900, is definitely in play if you're game stacking. DeAndre Golston, probably one of my favorite values on the slate, probably going to be one of the more popular ones, though, as well. 4,900, close to 5X projection here for us. And I think he's a very good play in this type of game environment. Sean East would be one that, if you need the cheap attachment to a game stack, go there. Not really one that I'm prioritizing, but I definitely am prioritizing Golston and possibly Kobe Brown as well. Moving over to Utah State, they have a lot of plays that we need to be interested in. Stephen Ashworth is their season usage leader here at 22%. Over the last 5, that is bumped up to 25. I think, he's probably a guy that I'm building around in my lineups tomorrow. 7,500 is a fair price, and he rates out very well. Taylor Funk would be the GPP pivot there. I have really no problem with any of these guys if you're even in your main lineup with these prices and this massive total, almost 80 implied points, and their highest price guys 7,500, and he has solid usage. So Funk is a fine play for GPP. Shulga, 6,400, rates out pretty well. My second favorite behind Ashworth is actually Sean Bairstow at 5,500. I think that's a great price for him. With this pace, I think, his projection could really be even higher if you boosted it a little bit for that. So he's in play. And then Trevin Dorius, who's, the riskiest of the plays for Utah State, just because of the type of matchup that he has down low. So not really prioritizing that value piece. But if you're game stacking, I think he could make some sense. So I rank Utah State, Ashworth, Bairstow, Shulga, Funk, and Doris. Dan Aiken would really be GPP only there. But Ashworth, in this game, Golston on the Missouri side and Ashworth are probably going to be the two of the first people in my lineup tomorrow. And if I land, if I get another one of these guys in, I'm not going to forcefully take them out, because this is the best spot of the slate as far as DFS goodness. Kansas and Howard. Kansas is a 22-point favorite in a 146 total. Big team total for Kansas. Got to think that they kind of run away and hide. They do have some question marks as far as injuries, and we definitely need to watch them. McCullough seems like he's going to play. Grady Dick had even been talked about to have possibly some injuries, so we at least need to watch that in a game. And I'll make sure I have all the questionable tags. I don't have those in there right now. When I added the Alabama salaries to the slate, it kind of messed it up, and I had to take away the highlights, and I didn't get back to doing the injury highlights. But I'll go through and do that likely in the morning. But Jalen Wilson, I think he's a decent GPP look at 9,300. I expect him, if they do stay in this tournament, for a length of time, he's going to be pushing 10K more than likely. But this is, again, a 22-point spread. You got to worry about that even more in the tournament, where if these teams get up, they know they got to play again in 2 days. They're going to rest their guys. KJ Adams, I think, is a decent GPP look on that side. We could have, potentially what you would want to look for if McCullough or Dick misses is Yusefu at 3,500. Even if one of those misses, I think he moves into value consideration, very good value consideration. So just be on the lookout for that if that did pop up last minute. At least it's one of the fairly early games, but really just GPP looks for Kansas. If they do have an 84 implied total, but when will Wilson and Adams come out? Obviously, Wilson's going to crush while he's in there. So on the Howard side, again, this is one of those looks where they're 22-point dogs, but it's a decent total. They're still implied for over 60. Somebody's going to score here. They're not just going to bench all their guys. And a lot of these at these prices, and this is the traditional mid-major against the one seed pricing by DK. You get all these guys rating out really over 4X. This is not a spot you want to play 3 guys or something, though, because you're going to have games like, with these 16 seeds that we've seen where people just completely lay eggs. Some of these guys will get here, not all of them, though. So pick and choose your spots. I like Shy Odom at 4,300 is a great price for me. Rates out over 5X in only 22 minutes. And then Marcus Dockery, 3,600. Rates out very well at 25 minutes as well. So those would be my 2 favorites. But again, you can see Jelani Williams, Steve Settle, Elijah Hawkins, all those guys rate out decent. Usage-wise, if you're looking at that, Elijah Hawkins is 24, Shy Odom's 24.5. Part of the reason why I really like him. Hawkins, Williams, and Odom, over the last 5, and Bryce Harris as well, all have very similar usage. So I like Shy Odom and then Marcus Dockery. So don't be scared to play those guys for some value pieces. Bama and Texas A&M Corpus Christi, fairly similar of a spot here. Bama does have a 90-point implied total. And if you go to the Bama side there, again, though, I'm not going to pay for Brandon Miller at 10-2. He needs his scoring to get there to really crush that price tag. And I just don't think, he sees the court enough in a 24-point spread to pay off that. So I'll be out on Miller tomorrow. Likely we'll get on him, though, as quick as the second game of the tournament. Quinterly's been a guy that we've played a lot over the last couple of weeks. He's up to 7K now. Don't really want to pay that for him. Bediako played very well in the SEC tournament. 4,800 would be my favorite look on Bama. And then Noah Gurley at 3K, I think, is a decent look as well, who, could definitely get some more minutes even in like a blowout situation. So those would really be my only looks on Bama. Now, I mentioned earlier that the A&M Corpus Christi side at how they underpriced them. They did kind of the same thing as they did to Howard. And, they even have a bigger implied team total. They have an above-average pace, normally at 3.6 above average in the country. We saw this team last night. I mean, they played horrible in the first half. Were able to get it done there in the second. It was just an overall ugly game there in the first half. I think you can go back to any of these guys, but really I think it comes down to you probably want to fall on these guys as one of your last couple pieces. It's not probably somebody you're going and building around. And it kind of works out in that there's a few different positions for these guys, as well as you have a few slightly different price points, so that if you land with this one of these amounts and below 6K, you can slot them in. Musiala rates out the best for me at 5,900. He's their down low presence. Tennyson, who I was on last night, absolutely just missed like every shot. He was kind of the guy in the first half who just looked, lost. Jalen Jackson came back, got to the line a lot in the second half. 5,300, very fair for him. Delarius Keys, he played very well last night. I'm a little lower on him in general, though. And then Fryer, who got to start last night, could definitely do so again. And 3,400 for a starter is at least, at 32 minutes, 3,400 is at least somewhat intriguing there. So, again, all kind of last guys in your lineup, not priorities, but very good plays in that scenario. San Diego State, College of Charleston. This is going to be a slower paced game for, College of Charleston, who likes to push the pace a little bit. San Diego State likes to slow it down. I have San Diego State winning this game. From a DFS perspective, not a lot that I really like, though. On the San Diego State side, even with the somewhat of a pace-up, Trammell, Lamont Butler are really, my favorite plays down there. I meant to have Butler highlighted there as a GPP look. Not anybody that I'm building around. Matt Bradley has kind of dipped as far as what he's been doing recently. His usage has stayed the same. He just hasn't got it done quite as well. On the College of Charleston side, really nobody I want to look at. It's a pace down from what they're used to. Brozovic is 7,400. Just not really one I want to look at. One that I do want to talk a little bit in length about is Rean Smith. I may list him as a GPP look, but look at this projection, 30 minutes, 4,400. He's rating out over 5X for me. But if you look at what he does well, 12.7 3-point attempts for 40 minutes. He just chucks threes. And what does San Diego State do well? They defend the three. So really a very bad matchup for Rean Smith. I think he gets popular. Could be a look to fade this guy and hope that he just busts and has an off shooting night against a tough defense. I think that's a very viable look and someone who is going to get popular. So I'll highlight him as a secondary option. But even if I was multi-entering, I'd be underweight on Smith. I don't really want to back just a pure shooter. Jalen Scott rates out decently as well, but again, this is just not the matchup that I want to be targeting pretty much anybody. Moving on, Arizona, Princeton, 14.5 spread, 154 total. We'll start with Arizona. Tube, 9,800. I think he's a very good look here. Depending on if Princeton's able to hang around, I think he could absolutely smash this team. They have almost, they could definitely put up 90 in this game as a team. They've got an 84 implied total. He could do it all. He's, very solid play. And what I really like about him is he's not fully scoring dependent to get there. He can, he's live for a triple-double really at any moment. Omar Ballo is playing with, I think it's a broke wrist or something like that. He's going to smash Princeton down low. How many minutes does he get? Is he limited? That's, of course, why I have him as a GPP only look. And then Kirk Risa, who has struggled mightily, but 5,200 for a guy who can score the rock, and going up against, Princeton here with an 84 total. Somebody's going to be scoring for Arizona. So don't hate the Arizona side. I think, they could let Princeton hang around a little bit, which ultimately helps the upside for some of these guys like Tube and Creasa. All right, Princeton. On the Princeton side, some GPP looks really only. They didn't price down. I don't even want to try to say that last name, but Tosin, 8,800, rates out great. He's their point forward. He could absolutely smash in this matchup. Princeton plays a little bit above average in pace. What was Arizona rates? Yeah, they play super fast. They're almost 5 above average as far as pace. This is a great matchup as far as for fantasy goodness. If this game stays close, there could definitely be players on both sides smash. So Tosin, 8,800 is a tough price to pay, but I think he's viable. And then Matt Alico, 6,200, going to play almost 40 minutes here. Could possibly play all 40. Rates out decently as well, even in a pace up for this team, who already themselves play a little bit above average. So like both of them, again, probably don't even want to play both of those in the same lineup unless you're just playing like 3 Arizona and 2 Princeton in the big GPP or something and trying to just dink it that way. But one of those guys I think is definitely viable as a run back to somebody like Tube. I don't hate that idea because Tube, he probably needs this to stay close to just fully smash and win you a GPP. So Tosin or Alico could definitely keep that in play. Arkansas and Illinois, I mentioned this as one of the ones that I kind of liked as a sneaky shootout game. I have warmed up a lot to Arkansas over the last 24 hours. I think they could knock off Kansas. I think they could make a run to the Final Four. They have all the talent in the world to do so. They've got improved interior play with the Mitchell brothers. I think, the backcourt I've mentioned a lot can carry some teams in March. Why can't that be Arkansas here? So Anthony Black, Nick Smith Jr., who's now healthy. Nice to see that happen. Now that he's back, he missed much of the year. 73 and 7,400. I think both of them are squarely in play. Both probably lottery picks in the NBA. Mekhi Mitchell and Devontae Davis are squarely in play as well. Davis is going to play nearly all the minutes, and he's only 5,600. I'm going to go ahead and actually list him as not just a secondary play. So I like probably grabbing one of those 3 at the very least in my lineup. And if you want to stack up this game, you can go over to the Illinois side. It's not, it's in college, it's not one of those things that you just, even if you play 2 of those Arkansas guys, especially on a slate this big, you do not have to run it back with somebody. But Terry Shannon, 8,100, I think is a decent GPP look. Mayer and Hawkins are decent as well. But Dane Danger, I kind of talked about the improved interior play, but Danger could possibly give them trouble. He's, just, underpriced for what he does. He's, that prices came down a lot over the last few weeks. So I think he's in play as well. But really, if I'm, looking on there with Illinois, it's one of those top guys pricing wise. It's not one of those cheap guys like Melendez or Rogers, who we had played a little bit with some injuries that they had from time to time. But with most everybody back, that's where I'm looking. Iowa and Auburn, another 8-9 matchup, close spread. Auburn is very priced to play here. Joni Broom, 8,600. I think he has big upside in this matchup. I don't think it's a super tough interior matchup. Broom just gets it done in a multitude of ways. So 8,600, I might have even considered him at just over 9K. So I'll definitely consider him here. Wendell Green's a decent GPP look who can get hot from deep. Alan Flanagan, 5,700. He has just been solid for this team, playing 30 minutes. I think that's a very fair price for him. And then Katie Johnson, again, very boomer bust, so GPP only there, but he could pop for a game and not surprise me at all. Iowa, Chris Murray and Tony Perkins would really be the main interest for me. Phillip there inside 7,300, just not a guy that I love to play a lot. I have played him, I think, a couple times against Michigan State this year, but not one that I traditionally love to play. But Chris Murray would be number one, for me. Don't hate the idea of grabbing him and then like a Joni Broom as a double pay up for larger field GPPs. And this one, and then Tony Perkins is, one of the guys that you kind of need him to get hot to get there, but definitely in play in this one. Duke and Oral Roberts. So this is one that I talked about. Let's start on the Oral Roberts side. I like the pace of this game. Max Asmus, 9,900. That is a tough price for a guy who, yes, could just torch this Duke team. 28% usage rate on the year, 27 over this last 5. He's going to chuck. He probably smashes, probably plays all 40 minutes, but is 9,900. What is he truly going to do to just bury you at 9,900? I don't think he can fully do that. He may prove me wrong, but Connor Vanover, 8,200, just a steep price for him as well. He rates out decently. I would actually prefer him to Max Asmus here for the 1,700 discount. And then Kareem Thompson would probably be my favorite of the bunch at only 5,800, rating out pretty well as well. Jurgens, I mentioned that I think they can hang around this game. And Jurgens is part of that at 5,300. He's got, some experience, just not one that I'm super excited about. Now, over on the Duke side, Filipowski is 9K. That's a fair price. Roach, 6,500. Fair price, going to play pretty much the whole game as their, steady backcourt guy. Derek Lively, I think, is a great play in this matchup, going up against Oral Roberts, who can be gotten on the interior a little bit. I think he could dominate this matchup. And then Tyrese Proctor, only 5,400. I prefer him to his backcourt in Jeremy Roach. Going to play over 30 minutes. So really like all three of those guys. I probably ranked them Lively, Filipowski, Proctor, and then Roach. But I think you could play two of them and get away with it if you really wanted to here. Texas and Colgate. Texas is a sizable favorite here. On the Texas side, I think, all these are fairly in play here. I think this is a sneaky pace spot. It's over a 150 total. Marcus Carr would be my favorite, 7,600. I think he can definitely score the rock. We saw him do a lot of that in non-conference play. So now we're back to non-conference play in this case. I think he could definitely have a very solid day. So Jabari Rice, Dylan DeSue, Timmy Allen, Tyrese Hunter, all in play for GPPs at their respective price points. Colgate, kind of like that side as well. Tucker Richardson, 8,200, very in play. Keegan Records in play as well. And then Oliver Lynch Daniels for value, kind of there with Golston from Mizzou at the very similar price point. Rates out just great. I mean, this guy is a sniper from 3-point range. If you look at his yearly, he's shooting 50% per 40 from three over his last 5. What is he at here? 50% as well. I mean, just absolutely he's going to light it up tomorrow. Will that be enough for them to knock off Texas? I don't think so. But I could see playing one or two of these guys from Colgate, run it back maybe on the other side with one of those Texas guys. And again, you don't have to. But they have a 68.5 implied total, even as a 13.5 point dog. So pretty good spot here when you got, 4 guys that we're projecting at 30, almost 35 plus minutes. All right. Northwestern and Boise State. So we go from some up-tempo matchups to not so up-tempo. I'm going to keep this one quick. Some of these guys rate out decently. I don't really have much interest in either side of this game. Shaver, is decent. I just don't want to pay for anybody in this low of a total. So Ty Berry would really be my only look in this game at 4,800, not paying a premium for Bowie or Audige, and really don't want to play anybody on the Boise State side personally. Houston and Northern Kentucky, I will keep this one quick as well. Houston, I think they blow them out. I think we need to watch, the questionable Marcus Sasser, who I have projected in right now. But if he's out, we're probably going to want to look to Terrence Arceneaux, 3,400, played massive minutes without him in the conference title game. Emmanuel Sharp would be a decent GPP look there as well. But that's really the news that we're watching there. And even if Sasser plays, Arceneaux could definitely be in play as well in larger field GPPs because I don't think they push Sasser at all. And then a 20-point spread, I think they comfortably win this game and pull their starters fairly early. Northern Kentucky, just not really anything I want to look at here. They have a couple, 4K guys that rate out well. I just don't want to play anybody from going up against Northern Kentucky. It just scares me to death. So I'll stay away from that mid-major. 3 games left. I'll try to keep it quick here. Tennessee and Louisiana Lafayette. 11.5 point spread for Tennessee. I think they win this one fairly handily. Again, great defensive team in Louisiana or in Tennessee. Don't want to play anybody against them. So Louisiana is out for me. On the Tennessee side, I think there's definitely some plays. Vescovi is taking over even more usage without Zakai Ziegler. I think he's in play for GPP. He's a little, higher price than what we've seen recently, but Josiah Jordan James is a very solid play at 6,100. Julian Phillips for GPPs. And then my favorite play off of Tennessee would be Mashak at 4,100. Just a great price point for him. So he's one of my priority values on this slate. So I rank Tennessee, Mashak, Jordan James, Vescovi, and then Phillips. I think are all very in play here in this one. All right, moving on, 2 games left. Texas A&M, Penn State. I think this is a solid game. I bet Texas A&M here. I think Henry Coleman It doesn't project very well, but this is a great. We've targeted bigs against Penn State a lot of the year. I think we can do so again here. 5,700. That's a nice, play in the big GPP that's got 50K up top. Wade Taylor's been playing great, but this is one of those things where he keeps playing great, but I think he's just a little too high priced. 8,700. I don't think he ever just smashes and kills you. Watch him now drop 50 DK tomorrow. But really, the only guy that I have a decent amount of interest in would be Coleman for A&M. On the Penn State side, Jalen Pickett's always in play. He could just smash at any moment. 10-1's a tough price, but if you have the value and can get there, I see no problem. I kind of prefer the value pieces under 5K and Andrew Funk, who's been playing pretty well. Then you've got Cameron Winter at 4,600, who both rate out decent as values. UCLA, North Carolina, Asheville. On the UCLA side, there's some news that we need to watch out for with Adam Bona. He was, listed as questionable a little bit late. So we need to check that out. They're also missing, of course, Clark, Jalen Clark in this one as well. So there's definitely, some things that we need to think about with UCLA. So ETN and Nwuba would be the guys that get the bump if we do not have Adam Bona. So definitely we're going to have to keep an eye out for that. It's probably not something that we can prioritize, unfortunately, but this is, even though it's a big spread, I think UCLA kind of handles them a little bit here, so they could get some minutes. You can go to Amari Bailey, who's now priced up a little bit, but he's definitely still a solid GPP option. And if North Carolina Asheville keeps us close, Jaime Jaquez at 9,500 is definitely in play. So I wish we could get that news on Bona a little bit earlier so that we could maybe even prioritize an ETN or Nwuba. I just don't know if we'll get that. Last team on the slate, 32nd team, UNC Asheville. Drew Pember rates out just nuts. 45 projection, 8K pace up spot with UCLA, who plays they are a little bit lower pace, but I think this is still a very, very solid spot. I think he'll be fairly popular. Will Pember, but I see no reason to fade here. It's one of those mid-majors that, even though he's priced up, I think you can definitely play. Fletcher Abey, 3,600, I think is in play as well, just because of the minutes that he's going to play. I'll highlight him as a GPP value. So Pember is a priority. Abey would be the secondary GPP option there for me. So that kind of concludes it. Let me make sure there weren't any more questions. I know Eric in our Discord wanted me to touch on some mid-major players. Kind of did that. Under the radar games, I kind of touched on a couple of those that I liked. Thinking Broom core, like him. I think Broom is a very solid play tomorrow. He's probably going to end up as, not being the first guy that I build around, but he could definitely be one of those that I'm a little unsure of what I want to do, as far as pay ups with Tube going up against Princeton, Filipowski, and a solid matchup, Broom, and Kobe Brown there at the top at 85 and above are kind of my favorites. I think you could go to any of them, probably play two. Broom is likely going to be one of those for me as well. So definitely like that. Any last questions? I'm going to hop off here. Been here a little longer than I was hoping, but that's part of it when you have 16 games. Be sure to hop in the Discord. Again, there's a free link in the chat there below. DFS, our channel is free. Our sheet is free through tonight. So be sure to check it out. I will have my rankings up on the sheet under the position ranks and the value play ranks tab that you can see there at the bottom. I'll have that up in the morning, probably a few hours before lock. Good luck tomorrow to everybody. It's going to be a fun one. All day college basketball next couple weeks. Good luck on your brackets. Good luck on your bets. Good luck on your pools. And good luck on DFS. It's really the best time of the year for college basketball. We've waited for this all year. So hit me up with questions, whether it's DM or in our college basketball channel. And I'll see you all in the Discord.